Hi, welcome to Prep Bytes. Now that we went in and discussed what are the main features that we want inside of our React application, now inside of our live chat application, I shouldn't just say React. Now comes the part to go in and get started with the actual development process. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the front end, and then later on, once we finish it off, we'll be moving on to back end in the series. So, in order to go in and get started with our front end, the entire UI, I would say the best thing to do is to work with or with having some kind of reference or having a design in mind. Because rather than going in and just building something on spot with whatever is coming in your head, having a proper design can make the overall process of creating a UI way more efficient and less time consuming. So there are several tools that are available which can help you to go in and do this. But generally speaking, though, if you're working in a team, there is a bunch of professionals like UI UX designers who will be going in and will be responsible for creating these designs, and you just have to replicate it. But in our case, as we don't have a UI UX designer to go in and hire, you can go in and build up your own design by using these free tools. One of the tools that I would suggest is Figma. It works on your browser as well as has a standalone desktop application. And you can use it to create up a really simple mock-up design for whichever project that you want to go in and create. This gives you a furthermore clarity on what exactly is it that you're creating, and you'll be able to think well in advance on how exactly to proceed and create your application. Okay, so here if you could see, I try to keep the overall design a bit more material and simple, and it just has a bunch of icons and a really good sidebar. Okay, now what you can see over here is I have a few mockups ready for the time being, and as you can see, there's a sidebar, and to the right hand side of the sidebar, you'll have the main chat area. So this is going to be our main focal point. This is going to be the main selling point, right, for our application, which is the chatting feature. So as you can see, this is where the chatting is going to happen. And the idea here is, so my idea altogether for the UI is to have a sidebar which will be omnipresent. It will be present regardless of whatever you're doing, whether you're trying to create a group, whether you're texting with someone, whether you want to go in and see who are online. The sidebar will be there 24/7 in the UI, be it the web UI or be it the mobile UI, because we're going to be making this responsive as well, so that it would work both on desktops, on a larger screen, or even on your mobile screens as well. So that would be fairly simple because we're going to be building a responsive layout, so it wouldn't need much of work. But still though, just giving you guys a heads up because we're going to be making this work on mobile devices as well. Okay, so you can add this in one of the features that we have discussed in for our chat application. Okay, now there's a bunch of icons that I've used over here, all courtesy of Google Fonts. These are material UI icons. You can go in and get access to them in at Google Fonts. And these are the same icons which are available in Material UI library as well, which we'll be using in React. And I just downloaded the SVGs and applied them up over here so that I can kind of have an idea on how it would go and end up looking. Okay, so the sidebar, as you can see, will have a header with a bunch of buttons that I can use for getting whichever functionality that I want. If I want to go in and see all the people who are online, I have a button for that. For all the available groups, I have a button for that. If I want to create a group, I have a button for that. And last but not the least, a button to toggle the theme. I have a search bar built in as well into the sidebar so that you can go in and filter out all the one-to-one chats and all the group chats that you have subscribed to. Okay, and then onto the right hand side. So this right hand side, I would say, is the main work area. So here we'll be going in and rendering out different components depending on what feature you need. So initially, if you go in and you log in, this is how it would go in and look like. So you'll have a small welcome component that is going to get rendered to the right hand side of the sidebar. If I click on any of the chats which are present over here in the sidebar, in the third panel, I would say, then it would go in and render out this chat area again to the right hand side of my sidebar. So this is kind of the design that I'm going in for. And, this will kind of help us to go in and get a pretty clean UI for you to go in and work around with. Okay. Now, how exactly are we going to go in and proceed? Okay, so now we need to think what is going to be the workflow or the use flow for our application, right? So let's try to think on it. All right. So I just imported the Figma design onto my whiteboard over here so that we can kind of discuss up a bit more and have further clarity on how exactly are we building this. Okay. So generally though, we're going to start with our login page. All right. You're going to start at the login page. So if the user has already created a account, then he'll be able to sign in with that account. But if he has not, we'll also be building up a sign up page as well. And once that is done, once that has been taken care of, you'll be sent to the welcome page. Okay, so the welcome page would go in and have this welcome message, as you already seen in here. Let me just take you to that. There you go. So this is going to be the welcome page. The sidebar is going to be present regardless of whichever feature that you're trying to go in and use. Okay, so this is going to be the welcome page. And then so the welcome page is where you're going to start, where the user will end up once he has successfully authenticated himself. Okay, so you'll be ending up in the welcome page. Now from the welcome page, there are several other features that you can go in and get. Okay, so there are several. Now the reason I'm using pages is because we're going to be providing some routing so that you can change the URL and render out different components, right? From the welcome page, you can go and access several other features, right? So for example, the main one would be the chat area. I'm going to just write it up over here. Pardon the bad handwriting, but I hope you guys can, make sense out of it. So one of the area will be the chat area page, so that if someone clicks on any previous conversations that they had within a group or within directly to a person, they'll be redirected to this chat area page. So the chat area page is going to be common, regardless of whether you're in a group or whether you are texting one-to-one. The chat area page is going to get rendered out to the right-hand side of our sidebar. Okay. We are going to create another component for creating the group, another component for going in and seeing the online users, and another component to go in and see all the available groups. Okay, so this is kind of going to give you an idea on how exactly is it that we intend to do the routing. So we're going to start at the login page, come to the welcome page. From the welcome page, you can go into the chat area, or you can create the group, or you can see all the online users, or you can go in and see all the available groups as well. We'll keep adding more and more functionality into this as we keep moving forward on, but this is the overall picture, I would say. Okay, so this and all is pretty good. Now, how exactly is it that we're going to go in and structure this? Now, as we're building an entire React application, we always start with an app component, right? So I'm going to talk in terms of React. So I hope, I'm just going to go in with this idea that you're already comfortable with using React. All right. And in terms of React, what generally tends to happen is that if you're building any application whatsoever, you always start with an app component, right? You always are going to start with an app component. And my app component is going to go in and contain, so within my app component, I'll have my main container. Okay. So what exactly is this main container that I'm talking about? So once when I was building up this particular design, that's why I'm saying like you should go in and try to create your own design, especially for the practice projects, because it'll help you to go in and get a pretty good understanding on how exactly is it that you're going to be building this whole project, right? So you can see that in the overall web page. Okay, so one of the things you can notice is there is this box that shows up over here, right? Let me just remove this box out. Okay, it's fine. Okay, so you can see there's this box with rounded edges. Okay, so you can see it has rounded edges here as well. So this is going to be my main component. Okay, so this is where all the magic is going to happen. Okay, so within this main container, we're going to be rendering out two other child elements. Okay, so main container element. Inside of that, I'll have two other elements. We'll have our sidebar here. Let me just open this. Right. So we'll have a sidebar over here, which is going to be present regardless of whatever you're going to go in and do. Okay. And depending on what option or what button you click in the sidebar, we'll go in and render out another component in the main work area. Okay. So this is going to be the work area, I'll say. For the time being, I'll say is the work area. So the work area can go in and render out several other components. The components that I'll say it can render out will be the chat area. If you want to go in and see the chat area, let me make it a bit more visible, because I don't think now it's visible altogether. I'll increase the thickness so that it's you guys can follow through. There you go. Okay, so I'll have the chat area. Okay, so all of this now, how exactly are we going to be swapping out these components? We'll be using the React Router DOM library in order to go in and do so. Okay, so the work area is just a name that I'm giving it. I'm not going to make a component as in such. Okay, let's see how exactly you can build it. But for the time being though, I'll say this is how it's gonna look like. So if you go in and you click on any of the buttons in the sidebar, you can render out the corresponding component. So the chat area the create group component, the online users component, all right, and the available groups component. Let me just put that as here as well. Okay, so available groups component. Okay, so far this is how it's going to work. So depending on whatever button that you go in and click in the sidebar, we're going to render out the corresponding component in the side area, which is the main work area. Okay, so work area, what I mean by work area is, so you can see this whole thing, right? This part that you see. Okay, right now the chat area component will be displayed out over there, but depending on whichever buttons you're going to go in and use within our sidebar, so you click on this. If you're going to go in and click on any of the buttons in the sidebar that we have, the corresponding component will go in and get rendered out. Okay, so that's the idea. That's the idea for the design of our front end or the user interface that we're going to go in and create. In the next session, we're going to go in and start with the actual development process. So this is kind of what you need. Like if you're going in and trying to work on creating a user interface, always have a design in mind so that it'd be easier on for you to go in and just replicate it all together. Okay, so that will be all for this video. See you in the next one.